So a few videos back, I talked about how Bitcoin could potentially hit $14,000 and Ethereum could hit $600. In that video, I talked about how we could have already bottomed, but to be aware of lower price targets in case the worst does happen. In this video, I wanted to make a case on why Bitcoin could have already bottomed and why we're going to try and higher from here. I'm also be going over what I'm expecting for the next 6 to 9 months and where the market will be in about 2 years. So if that's interesting, definitely stick around. So I'm going to be going over a ton of different indicators, but they're all going to complement one another, and it's going to help us see why we could have already bottomed. Now, the first bullish indicator is that the weekly MACD is about to cross. But if you take a look at the monthly MACD, so far we've printed 7 red bars. The last time we saw 7 red bars on the monthly MACD was in 2018. We printed 7 red bars, followed by pink, which led to a green month, followed by a rally that also marked the bottom. Not only that, from 2014 to 2015's bear market, there was 7 red bars that got printed, followed by a pink one, which was a green month, followed by a consolidation, then a bull market. By the 7th red candle, the bottom was also in. So in the past 2 cycles, when Bitcoin got 7 red bars printed on the monthly MACD, that marked the bottom, which means that we could already have bottomed out, but it'll all depend on the next month candle. Also on the 7th red monthly candle on the MACD, the RSI on the weekly has dipped below 30 every single time as well. Also, when you take a look at the weekly Gaussian channel, anytime it started to turn red, within that 50-day period, Bitcoin has bottomed out once, twice, and potentially the 3rd time, which is also where the pi cycle bottom indicator flashed. So we got the MACD, RSI, Gaussian channel, and even the pi cycle bottom indicator all flashing at the same time. Not only that, if you switch over to the monthly on the Gaussian channel, you can see the top of the channel surprisingly has held as pretty strong support levels, and right now we're testing that level as support. And historically, the 200-week moving average has held as strong support for Bitcoin. We saw it back in 2015, 2018, 2020, and now we see it in 2022. This is the first time Bitcoin has really consolidated below the 200-week moving average. We kind of went above it, below it, back above it. So we're definitely going to be consolidating in this range for a while. A lot of people are afraid that we're going to get rejected and continue lower. But the question that I want to impress upon you is that, do you think Bitcoin will always stay below the 200-week moving average, or do you think it'll eventually get back above it? For me, as an investor and looking at historical data, I do believe that Bitcoin will hold it as support and eventually continue higher or above it. I mean, if you look at this chart alone, right, anytime we're kind of in the deeper blue area, it's showing that the price is close to the 200-week moving average. This is one of the first time where we kind of entered a darker or deeper blue. And eventually, I do expect this line to turn green, yellow, like we saw over here, here, and here. If it ever flashes red, that's a great time to get out. It's signaling that it's very far away from its 200-week moving average. That means it's extremely overbought. Now, if you haven't watched my Bitcoin is going lower video, in that video, I talked about how every bear market, anytime Bitcoin broke down from a bearish price target or a pattern, it hit that target to the exact dollar. Not only that, it was also the bottom of the market. I know people talk about how no one knows exactly where the bottom's at, and that is true. But historically, it seems like Bitcoin, we could have figured out where the bottom was. In this case, Bitcoin is in this ascending parallel channel. Now, unfortunately, we did break down from it. So you measure from the top to the bottom of the channel to the breakdown point, and you can see that it hit the exact dollar. Not only that, it acted as support. Bitcoin was also in this descending wedge, which is generally a bullish pattern, but it could also break to the downside. You can see it acted as support multiple times, got rejected, and went lower. How do you measure the downside target? You measure from the top to the bottom of the wedge to the breakdown point, which is right around here, and you can see once again it hit to the exact dollar and acted as support. And every time Bitcoin hit down at these price targets, the RSI was oversold, the MACD was about to flip, the Gaussian channel was in the red within the 50 days, plus the pi cycle bottom indicator flashed. And every time Bitcoin has bottomed out, followed by capitulation with all the things I've mentioned, we saw a bullish divergence form. For example, we have the price pretty much a triple bottom, 1, 2, 3, but we have the RSI trending higher. So that is a bullish divergence number 1. Even in the 2020 crash, when things were just selling off, we saw another bullish divergence, a lower low on the price, but a higher high on the RSI. Same thing in the 2019 bear market, we see a lower low in the price, but a higher high on the RSI. And then in 2015, we see a lower low and a higher high in the RSI, which is our 4th bullish divergence on every capitulation, panic selling moment where everything is oversold. And then we have our Lux Algo. But before I go over this, I do want to announce the 4 winners for our Kucoin giveaway. Congratulations to these 4 winners. You'll be getting $250 into your account within a week. Now, it is not too late if you wanted to register as well. If you use my link down below to sign up for a Kucoin account, deposit $100, and make at least 1 trade, you'll be eligible to get $25 into your account within 10 business days and have a chance to win $250 every single week. I'll be choosing 4 winners, $250 each. That's $1,000 total. Kucoin is the exchange that I use to trade Rose, which has done exceptionally well this past week. I love being able to have a trading account and a main account within Kucoin. What I usually do is I transfer my profits over to my main account so I don't trade with my profits, and I like to keep around $10,000 in my trading account. Recently, I made a trade. This is my profit right over here. I click on transfer. From my trading account to my main account, I paste the amount, confirm, and now I'm at $10,000 even flat, and on my main account, my profits are here. Also, recently, Kucoin has secured a $10 million investment from SIG. They are one of the leading quantitative trading funds, and they're going to be using that $10 million to help build out the Kucoin ecosystem and help start up blockchain startups. Kucoin has been around since 2017, so for the past 5 years, they've pretty much been around for 2 bear markets. KYC is optional for US customers. They're one of the top 10 cryptocurrency exchanges. I love using them, and they have over 700 different cryptocurrency on their platform. Not only that, they recently crossed a whopping $2 trillion of trading volume. With this recent investment from SIG, I'm really excited to see how they're going to position themselves today for the next bull run. So if you guys are interested in signing up for Kucoin, link down below. Now, the next indicator that I want to take a look at is called the Lux Algo. You can see this red band on top and this green kind of cloudish thing on the bottom. This is called the reversal zone. I'm going to actually unhighlight trend catcher, and we're actually going to remove all the buy signals along with the sell signals so we can just take a look at the reversal zones. Now, I wouldn't use this necessarily to sell, but if you take a look at where we're at today, we touched the green area for the first time in Bitcoin's history on the Lux Algo. Now, to me, what that indicates is that the market is extremely oversold, because even in these oversold moments and bear markets, it never touched the green areas. On the other hand, if we take a look at the 3D chart, it touched once in 2014 and one more time in 2015. If we factor in all the things I mentioned in the beginning, the RSI, the Gaussian channel, the MACD, this pretty much didn't count because it didn't have that capitulation moment, whereas this moment did. Fast forward, if we take a look at 2018, you can see that it also touched the green area along with the 2020 crash. Fast forward today, we can see that Bitcoin has touched the green area for the reversal zone on the 3-day Lux Algo. And this time we had all the indicators that I mentioned in the beginning flash, which indicates to me that it's more likely a bottom than not. Now, if you stuck around this long, congratulations. I'm going to be talking about an indicator that I've never talked about, nor have I ever really heard others talk about this. I recently discovered it and found it very fascinating. This is what we call a fear and greed indicator. Now, this indicator doesn't really time exact tops and bottoms, but it does do a pretty good job of letting us know when to exit the market and when to enter back into the market. But it only does well like in the extremes. So we're talking about the extremely overbought situations and extremely oversold situations. For example, back in March of 2021, once we got this red candle during this extremely overbought area, that would have been a great time to sell, even if Bitcoin did end up making a new all-time high. Let's say I did end up selling there, didn't buy any of this, and bought back in when we got our first weekly green candle. Yes, unfortunately, I did not get the bottom, but I did end up riding this up to a new all-time high. During this time, we got extremely overbought. We got our first red weekly candle. And if I'm going to be using this strategy moving forward, that is a time I would have sold. Yes, I would have not gotten the exact top, but it would have saved me from a lot of pain. Now, you're wondering, why wouldn't I enter here or here? Because these aren't extremes, right? They're not extremely oversold territories or even overbought territories. This entire move over here was an extremely oversold territory kind of situation. So once we hit our first green candle right over here, it's really small, but it is green. So far, we've gotten 1, 2, and 3 green candles. I pretty much went almost all in at that point. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to use this strategy, of course, you shouldn't just use this one indicator as a strategy, but everything was oversold. All the things I mentioned, plus the greed indicator finally flashed green. That was a great signal for me to enter back into the market. Even if I didn't go all in at the exact bottom, the idea is to get in the general area to ride it up. Now, in the first Bitcoin cycle, the fear and greed indicator consolidated as Bitcoin was correcting, eventually consolidated and broke out into its next bull run. 2017 to 2018, we saw the fear and greed indicator consolidated, eventually broke out, started its next bull run. And right now we are seeing the exact same thing where the fear and greed indicator is consolidating. It finally turned green as Bitcoin is correcting downwards, and eventually will probably consolidate a little longer in this area before we continue higher. So what am I expecting for the next 6 to 12 months, also the next 2 years, just moving forward? Well, I shared this chart in one of my previous videos. This is just a theory, but what I did was I broke up the entire chart up into 450 days into sections. Green pretty much means bull market, red means bear market, and yellow just means a relief rally or consolidation. You know, historically, Bitcoin has bottomed out while we were in this red zone. So could we have bottomed out? I think so, considering all the indicators that I just talked about to back up a reason why we've already bottomed out. Yes, there is a small percentage of us making a lower low, but the probability of us bottoming out is a lot higher, in my opinion, than going lower. Afterwards, we saw Bitcoin just consolidate into that yellow zone. So I do expect Bitcoin just to consolidate sideways for until the end of the year. Now, I do think there is a possibility that Bitcoin could, revisit the 28 to 30K range, consolidate in that range until the end of the year and slowly trend higher. Like we saw back in 2020, we saw this capitulation or this black swan event, came back up, consolidated before we began the bull market. I do consider this sort of like a black swan. It was sort of like a Terra Luna situation, black swan, Celsius, black swan. Like there was just a ton of things gone wrong at that exact moment in time. I personally never expected Bitcoin to revisit these levels, but it did. If I had to make a guess, I think that Bitcoin could rally up all the way up to the 28 to 30K range, but get a major pullback in September, probably to the lower 20s, because September is historically not a great month for the markets in general. Then maybe we can rally all the way back up, probably revisit the 37 to 38K range and consolidate sideways for the rest of 2023 until the next halving in 2024, where we'll see a bull market breaking the previous all-time high and hopefully hitting 100K. At the time of making this video, the US is technically in a recession. The government is kind of saying otherwise, and I understand why they're saying that, because if you compare the recessions that we experienced historically and what we're experiencing today, we're much better off right now than we were back then. So I get why, the government is saying that we're doing okay when we're technically not doing okay. So there is still a sense of kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market. So I don't expect the markets just to rally up and make new all-time highs. I think the smart thing to expect is just sideways consolidation until 2023. And when I say sideways consolidation, I'm talking anywhere between 20 to 40K and just bouncing between that range. Still, I bought a ton of Bitcoin down at that range as I was dollar cost averaging, and I will continue to DCA every single day. If we go higher, I'll DCA less. But anytime there is fear and panic, I'll be buying the dip much more aggressively. I am still accumulating cash, and everything I pretty much shared in my previous videos, I'm still doing. Well, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you are interested in learning more about the cryptocurrency space and how I'm navigating these markets, what I'm buying, what I'm selling, and how I'm trading, check out the Patreon group, link down below. You'll get access to our private Discord group where you'll have an amazing growing community. But other than that, make sure you guys invest smart, trade smart, and I'll see you guys in the next video over. Good night, good morning, adios.